Hey guys, welcome. Today's beginner class is going to focus on this intersection between strength and flexibility. I think they're two of the primary things that bring people to yoga in the first place. We're trying to build a little bit more stamina and strength, or create more flexibility and mobility in our body. And sometimes it's both of those that bring us to start the practice. So we're going to explore those opposite ends and feel the difference between those two today and how they meet, and then what we end up getting from our practice too in the long run. So if you have some blocks at home, those are great to have. You can set them up at the front of your mat. And if you have a blanket to sit on, or even a throw pillow from your couch, works really well for the end of practice to help sit up on and give our hips a little bit of height. Okay, there is a playlist in the class notes if you want to use that at home. And then we're going to come to start standing at the front of the mat. And so a lot of times, especially when we're new to yoga, taking the feet hip width apart can feel more stable. And you can judge hip width by taking your two fists, fit them between your feet. Sometimes we tend to way overestimate the size of our feet or the size of our hips, and our feet are way out wide. And so find the place there where it feels stable. And then balance front to back, side to side, so your weight feels evenly distributed. Bring your hands along your sides, turn your palms forward. And then press down into your feet, and that might help bring some more stability to your legs. Draw your kneecaps up towards your thighs to turn some strength on in the front of your legs. Lift up through your lower belly. And draw your shoulders open and back to create space through the front of your shoulders and your chest. And you can close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or just soften your gaze. And take a few moments here to bring your attention to your breath. Right? Don't even feel the need to make big changes to start with. Just notice, tune in. You can feel the rate of your breath. Does it feel a little faster or slower? Right? How deep your breath is. Like, does it feel like you're just breathing into that upper portion of your lungs? Or does it feel already like the breath is coming a little bit more into that space of your belly? And just this simple awareness of breath and body together is such a great benefit of our practice. Like, these moments to take our breath a little slower and deeper are great for our nervous system, great for just soothing and settling everything. So give yourself a couple more like that. And as you create that steady rhythm with your breath, see if you can maintain that throughout your practice today. Good. Anchor down through your feet. Next inhale, reach both arms up overhead. And then as you exhale, fold forward, hinge at your hips, not at your waist, so that your spine stays long as you fold. You can bend your knees here. If you have blocks, those are also great just to make your arms a little bit longer. Bring your upper body down towards your mat. And stay rooted through your feet. Squeeze your legs in towards center so we get that strength in towards the midline of our body. And then inhale, stretch forward halfway. So you're bringing your spine parallel or towards parallel with the ground. Right? And if you don't have blocks, hands to shins here or even hands to thighs is great. Next exhale, fold back in. Right? Hands to blocks, bend your knees, find what works. Then bring your hands to your hips, press your feet down. Inhale with a strong back, come all the way up to standing. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Right? So even just forward bends start to create that flexibility through the backside of our body. Inhale, reach both arms up. Exhale again, fold forward, long spine. Keep some lift in your belly for support. Hands to blocks, to mat, to shins, depending on where your range of motion is today. Inhale, stretch forward halfway. And then pause here with hands to shins or blocks. Draw your shoulders back, lift up through your belly, stretch out long through the top of your head. Keep that fold all the way in. And press your feet down. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Take a breath. One more like that. Reach up, inhale. Fold forward, exhale. See if you can take that full length of your breath to come down. Bring your hands for support or bend your knees. Inhale, stretch forward halfway. Exhale, fold in. This time, bend your knees enough to get your hands to your mat. Step your right foot back. Bring your right knee down to your mat. If you have blocks, you might want to bring them with you. Slide your hips back. This is half splits, or called Ardha Hanuman. And so you can walk your hands back a little bit further. That keeps your upper body more upright, might change the stretch a little bit. Now get strong for your left leg. So flex your foot, press your heel down, and then traction it back. So it's that movement without movement, like you're pulling it back, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. That might help to turn on the strength in the back of your leg. You can stay right here. This might be plenty of stretch. Or start to walk your hands forward a little bit, right, to see where the right amount of stretch is for you. And a really good gauge of that, a couple things, your breath, right? So if your breath starts to get too fast or feels strained, that might mean we've pushed past the edge. And then you want to start to check in with how much sensation. So yes, there's stretch, things are happening, but there's no pain. Right? And we start to become really discerning in our practice about where that edge is, and it feels different pose to pose. Right? Where is enough? And where are we pushing past that edge and it becomes counterproductive because our body starts to tense up and our breath shallows. And next, inhale, come forward, bend your front knee, lift your back leg. Right? You can set your blocks off to the side, right? Set them towards like the middle or back of your mat, and then pivot your feet to the long end of your mat. And take a moment here to parallel your feet and turn your toes forward so the outer edges of your feet line up with the front and back of your mat. Again, a little softness in the knees might feel better here. Press down through your feet and then let your upper body start to fold in. Right? If you have blocks are, I think, one of the best props to have, really great, simple props to have at home for your practice. You can use your hands for support there. Books, if you have some tall books, those work well too. Or you can bring your hands down to your mat. And then start to play with where's the right amount of fold for you. I think our body's really good at telling us. We just have to pay attention and listen. Where do you meet that place of resistance? And then we really want to support that with muscular strength, right? So draw up from your heels towards your sitting bones, like you could lift that line all along the back side of your body. Now take another couple breaths there. And then bring yourself forward halfway. Walk your hands to the back of your mat. Right, so pivot on your toes. So front heels forward, well, backwards towards the back of your mat, up on the ball of your back foot. And then bring your left knee down, your back knee down. Slide your hips back to that half splits again. Right, so you're facing backwards, but this is the same pose we just did to the front of the mat. You want to scoot your right heel forward until, right, your left hip is stacked right over your left knee. Great place again for blocks, if that's helpful here. Right? If your hands comfortably reach down to the mat, great, right? Or if there's a little stretch in order to do that, do that. Flex your right toes, press your heel down, traction your heel back. And that's going to help that strength along the backside. You're either going to walk your hands back out of it a little bit, maybe walk forward. And the appropriate amount of stretch might be really different side to side. So listen to where that edge is in your body and take some full, steady breaths there. I think Unless we start practicing yoga often, we don't pay attention to our breath throughout the day, right? We take it for granted. It's there, but it might be really shallow or irregular. And one of the great benefits about yoga is this attention to our breath and using it as an easy tool that we always have with us, especially when we're feeling a little bit unsettled or right, stressed or worried. It's great to tap into. Good. From that stretch, slide forward, bend your front knee, pick up your back knee, and then take a big step forward so you're in a standing forward fold at the back end of your mat. Feet hip width apart, maybe a bend in your knees. Bring your hands to your hips, strong legs. Inhale, come all the way up with a straight spine. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Take a nice full round of breath. Inhale, sweep both arms up. Exhale, fold forward. And then you're going to step your left foot back again. Bring your left knee down to your mat. You can take your right foot out just a little wider, a couple of inches for more stability. You could also place your pillow or your blanket underneath your left knee for a little more support. Or a nice trick is to fold your mat over. Place your knee there for more cushion, especially if you're on wood floor like I am. Bring your hands up to your front thigh this time. Good. And then squeeze your inner legs together. So again, we get that stability to support the stretch. And you can stay here all the way upright. That might be plenty of stretch in the front of the hip. Or with that strength of the legs, just let your hips start to come forward a little bit more. So take a couple of full breaths here. Where's that edge of sensation? Right? Stretch but no pain. Back your hips out. Bring your hands down to your mat, lift your back knee, and then again, turn your heels or your toes towards the long end of your mat. So you're in that wide-legged forward fold one more time. Right, walk your hands right underneath your shoulders. Press down through the outer edges of your feet. And then lift from your inner arch all the way up the inseam of the leg. Lots of support in your legs. Then let your upper body fold forward. Release the weight of your head. You can even shake your head out, yes and no. That heavy weight of your head acts like traction along your neck and along your spine. Next, inhale, come forward again, halfway, lengthen your spine. And then walk your hands to the front of your mat. And so the reverse of what we just did before. Bring your right knee down. Bring your hands up to your front thigh. Good. Hug your legs into center. And then draw your left hip back a little bit. So we're working on hips being even towards the front of our mat. I'm just moving in that direction. And if this is enough, stay right here, right? Or start to bring your hips forward a little bit, but keep the strength in your legs. You're going to feel nice sensation in the front of the right hip. And I think sometimes we get into like more is better, right? More stretch, more sensation. Not always the case. I think we can push too far and then things start to just tighten up around it if there's that sensation of pain. So we become really good about listening to our bodies and knowing where that is, or that's hopefully the benefit of our practice. Good. Back your hips out a little bit. Bring your hands down to your mat. Lift your back knee and then step back to downward facing dog. Right, so take your hands so they're wide as your outer shoulders. And that might even mean pinkies towards the outer edges of your mat. Like mine are almost touching the outer edges of my mat. And that same stance with your feet so they're hip width apart. Spread your fingers wide. It's lots of space between each finger. And then press down through your fingertips. And it helps to create stability from your hands all the way up to your shoulders. You may even have a bend in your knees here. And your heels may or may not touch the mat. They may never touch the mat.
that's fine. Just send them in that direction to create again that stretch along the backside of your body. And take another full inhale here. And then exhale, bring your knees down to your mat. Walk your hands back until your hands are stacked right under your shoulders. So we're in tabletop position, hands and knees. Keep that same support through your hands. And we'll take a couple rounds of cat and cow. So inhale, arch your back, look forward. And as you exhale, press down into your hands, draw your chin to your chest, round through your back. Inhale, come forward, arch your back, look forward. Exhale, press your hands down, round your back, chin towards chest. And then just let that move to the rhythm of your breath. Right? So where IQ might be a little bit different from where your breath is, longer or shorter. And this coordination of breath and body, again, it just really helps to bring in that attention to breath. And sometimes we walk around all day just thoughts in our head without being connected to our body. And just this awareness of what's happening in our body is such a great byproduct of our practice. Good. And then the next time you come into that cat pose with the back rounded, stay here. You're going to take your left hand, thread it behind your right arm, come to rest on the side of your head. This is another good place for a little support, a block or a pillow. Sometimes the mat feels really far away from our head. So if you want a little bit more support, slide something in under there. And then you can keep your right hand here for support. That might be enough. Or you can take your hand, wrap it around your lower back. This gives you a little bit more opening through the shoulder. And so your left hand, the one that's down on the mat, turn your palm to face up. And then press to the back of your hand and the back of your arm as you roll your right shoulder back. So you start to create some stretch, some opening now through the shoulders, maybe through your neck, and get a little twist through our torso. Next, inhale, unwind, plant your hands, stay here for your exhale. And then one round, inhale, come forward. This is cow pose with the arch back. And then cat pose again, round up and in. Right, so switch sides this time, right hand threads behind the left. Come to rest either side of your head or right block, pillow, whatever you want for support there. Keep your left fingertips down or reach your arm around. It might rest low back. It might even wrap around to the crease of your thigh behind you. And turn your right palm up. Press down through the backside of your hand and your arm. Roll your shoulder back. Right. And then just check in with breath, especially when we're trying to fine tune things in the pose. Sometimes we forget about that connection. Come back, take a few steady breaths. Right. We keep reminding ourselves to come back to that. Next, inhale, unwind. And then bring both hands back to your mat. Good. From tabletop, walk your hands forward about a palm print. So get a little bit longer before we come back to down dog. And then press into your hands, stretch your hips up and back again to downward facing dog. Spread your fingers, root down through your fingertips. So it almost feels like you're making little claws with your hands. And stretch your hips back. Send your heels towards the ground. And with your next inhale, come forward to high plank pose, right? So top of a push-up until your shoulders stack right over your wrists, right? So great variation here is that you can bring knees down here in plank pose. It's really nice for support. Still starts to build strength in your upper body. Or keep your knees lifted, but work to keep your hips and your shoulders in the same plane.
Sometimes that's hard to get a sense of at first when we're starting practice, where our body is in space. Sometimes it's great to have people to give you a little side view on it. Press down into your hands. Traction the heels of your hands back towards your toes. Yep, now we're in that strength building part of the practice. Good. Take another full breath in. And then exhale, lift your hips up and back, down dog. Right, plank's it's simple. It's hard, but it's simple. And helps us to build strength through shoulders, through core, even along the backside of glutes and hamstrings. So maybe challenging, but also really effective. Walk your feet forward to your hands, come to the front of your mat again. Right, feet hip width apart, maybe bend your knees, just see how your back body feels. And then bring your hands to your hips, press down, inhale, come all the way up. Good work. Exhale, hands together at your heart. Take a couple full, steady breaths. So we just keep coming back to that. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, fold forward, spine long. Keep tone in your belly. Step your right foot back. This time, keep the back leg lifted, right? You can bring it down for a little bit more support. So that's great. Know that that's a really good variation. This version on the lunge is going to be a little bit more strengthening. Press down through your feet. Inhale, come all the way up. Reach your arms up overhead. Settle down into your front knee. And if balance is feeling a little bit wobbly, because it can be, take your left foot out just an inch or two wider. Give yourself a wider foundation there. And then like we did before, hug your inner legs together. Wait, pull in. Dial your left hip back and get strong through your back leg. It might have a little bend in it. That sometimes is better for our low back, which is fine, but let it feel strong and stable. Take a breath in, and then exhale, twist. Bring your left arm back, right arm forward. Turn your thumbs up to open your palms. Good. Keep squeezing your legs in towards center. Stay low in your front knee. Take a full breath. Inhale, bring both arms up overhead. Exhale, bring your hands down to your mat. And then turn your back heel down. And so you're setting up this heel to heel or heel to the center of your arch alignment. And then your front toes point straight forward. Your back toes are turned in just about an inch or two. Next, inhale, come all the way up, warrior two pose. And so you might need to organize the length of your stance front to back, long enough that you can get down into your front knee and your knee is over your ankle. But short enough that it feels like you can still hug your legs in and find stability there. With your arms out wide, draw your right shoulder, right ribs back. Take a few breaths. These warrior poses can be great for developing strength and stamina in our legs. For even just helping us feel like we're tapping into that sense of inner strength that we have. Next, exhale, circle your hands down to your mat. Take a big step forward to the front of your mat. Fold all the way in. And then we'll do the second side. Step your left foot back. And so if the balance was a little wobbly, take your right foot out just a little wider. And so it feels more like you're standing on railroad tracks than on a tightrope. Press your feet down. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, bend into your front knee. Good. Squeeze your legs into center, hug in. And as you press down through your feet, lift up through your belly, open up through your chest, make your back leg strong. Reach all the way up through your fingertips. Right? Sometimes the fingers get a little lazy. Engage all the way up. We think about it as the end points of the pose. Take a breath in here. And then exhale, twist right arm back, left arm forward. Turn your thumbs up, open your palms, hug your shoulder blades together. Steady your breath. Inhale, both arms up overhead. Exhale, bring your hands down to your mat. And again, turn your back heel down, right? Set up that alignment of your feet. Inhale, come all the way up, warrior two to the second side. Yeah, good. Organize your feet here. Sometimes it's about the same length from our lunge pose. Sometimes we need a little bit longer or shorter stance. Squeeze your heels. Settle down into your front knee. A great place to check to just make sure the knee is stacked right over the ankle. If it comes forward, it's just a lot of pressure on the knee joint. Behind is okay, right? Just working towards knee over ankle. Squeeze in, and then draw your left shoulder, left ribs back. Hug your shoulder blades back. Look out over your front hand. Couple big, full, steady breaths into that strength and stability of your legs. Next, exhale, circle your hands down to your mat. Step back, high plank. Right, so knees up or knees down. Spread your fingers wide. Press into your fingertips. And sometimes you even get that little bit of shaking going here in plank. Just new muscle memory. Take another big breath in. And then as you exhale, bring your knees down first. Point your elbows straight back to lower all the way down to your belly. Then untuck your toes, press the tops of your feet down. Stretch your arms long back by your sides. Turn your palms down. Zip up through your lower belly. Right, that gives a lot of support in our low back. Take a full breath out. Inhale, lift up through your upper body. So head, chest, arms. Keep pressing the tops of your feet down so you get the strength of your legs and the strength of your back to help you lift. Right, these belly down back bones are great for that strength all along the spine. And exhale, lower down. Turn your head to one side. Take a couple breaths. One more round. So come back to center. Bring your forehead or chin to your mat. Press the tops of your feet down. Lift up through your low belly. With your palms down, inhale, lift up through your upper body. And the palms down just helps us a little bit more hug the shoulder blades onto the back and stay open through your chest. Okay, option here, stay just like this. Plenty maybe. Or lift your feet and your legs up as well, right? Really your shins. If that causes too much back bend, like starts to pinch or give pressure, keep your feet down. Right, that lift of the legs just might give you a little more strength along the back side of your legs. Inhale here. Exhale, come all the way down. Turn your head to the side. Just let your hips wiggle a little bit side to side. And bring your hands by your lower ribs, right? Get those strong, same hands like down dog or plank. Tuck your toes under. We're doing a fun big strength move from here. Exhale all the air out. With your inhale, press back up, high plank. Nice, and then back to downward facing dog. Good, take a round of breath there. Down dog itself is such a good strengthening pose. And then walk your feet up to your hands. Right? Sometimes it meets like in the middle. Whenever that stopping place is, then just walk your hands back to meet your feet. Bring your hands to your hips. Come all the way up to standing. Great. Okay, start with your feet closer together, and then find a focus point for your eyes on the wall in the front, on the wall in front of you. Right, the eyes are really helpful for balance. Right, so we're going to come into warrior three, similar to that pose in a lot of ways we just did on the floor because it strengthens along the back side of the body. Okay, with your hands by your sides, turn your palms forward. Shift your weight to your left foot. And just start to pick up your right leg behind you. So already probably just start to notice the balance. Great. Root down through your left foot. Flex your right foot. So the great thing about warrior three is you can be here, right? Your leg doesn't have to lift high. Or maybe start to lift a little higher. And so just notice the higher you lift the leg, the more your upper body comes forward. So it's really in proportion to one another. Till maybe, maybe your upper body and your leg come parallel to your mat. And like we did on the ground, draw your shoulder blades onto your back. Right? Strengthen through the back line of your body. And the right hip here tends to want to lift. Dial the outer right hip down and stay lifted through your belly. Good. Next, inhale, come all the way back up. Bring your hands together at your heart. Take a breath. Right, always a good challenge when we add the balance into the strengthening component. Okay, hands by your sides. Weight to your right foot. And so even here, lift up through your belly, open up through your chest. So we set the pose up. And then start to lift your left leg up. Maybe right here. If balance is feeling like, whew, it's a challenge today, one of my favorite things is just bring your hand to a wall or walk to a wall, use that for support. In that way, we start to get the shape of the pose and create the muscle memory for that, right, while we have a little support for balance. Right? Then once you feel more stable in the pose, then the hand comes away from the wall. Maybe, right? At some point. Find the right height and lift for your leg. Keep your chest open. Stay strong through your back leg, right? So curl your toes back. Squeeze from your heel back up towards your hip. Take another breath. Good. And then foot down. Bring hands to heart. Take a breath there at center. Inhale, reach both arms up. Exhale, fold. Keep your spine long. As you get down, again, maybe bend your knees, or blocks are always great support for those forward folds. Then bend your knees enough, bring your hands all the way to your mat. Step yourself back, high plank. Okay, so we're gonna take a little different variation here in plank. With knees up or knees down, come to your forearms. Right, so elbows go where your hands were. And you can have knees up or knees down for a little bit more support. Press down through your forearms. Traction your elbows back towards your toes. Keep the top of your head lengthening forward and your heels back. Right? Again, remember knees down is always a great variation. A little shaking, okay. Pain, give yourself more support. Okay, and then bring your knees down. Let your chest come all the way down. Stay up on your forearms, but untuck your feet so the tops of your toes are down again. And keep pressing down through your forearms. Lift up through your belly. And then again, draw your elbows back towards your hips this time to lift up through your chest. And this is Sphinx pose. Right, and like we did before, keep pressing through the tops of your feet and just feel the strength that that brings to your legs. Take one more full breath in. And then exhale, lower all the way down. Send your hips back, child's pose. Big toes together, knees wide.
Take a couple of breaths here. Next, inhale, come forward, tabletop pose again. Right, start with your hips stacked over your knees. You can have the tops of your feet down or your toes tucked under. I think it's just whatever brings you a little bit more stability. Okay, lift up through your low belly for support. And then keep your hips right here. Walk your hands forward. So your upper body is going to be similar to where we just were in child's pose, but your hips stay stacked. This is heart melting pose. So options here, you can bring your forehead to your mat and you might be like, oh, no way, that's really far away. You can bring your forehead to a block or to a pillow or throw a pillow from your couch. Give it a little bit more support if it needs. Right, we start to come back now into the stretch. It's a great one for the shoulders and the chest. And so your arms can be parallel, or you can take them just a little bit wider, like a V shape if that feels better. Stay lifted through your belly. Press down through your hands. And from that support, let the center of your chest move towards your mat. Lift up from the underside of your armpits. Get all sorts of opening through the chest, through the shoulders. Take a couple breaths there. And then walk your hands back. Come back to tabletop. Good. Sit back onto your heels. And you're going to stretch your legs all the way out in front. If you have a blanket or a throw pillow to sit up on, sometimes that's nice for a little extra support here. So what that does is it just helps you keep some of that curve in your low back. It's often when we sit on the ground, because we don't do that a lot unless we're doing yoga, right? We tend to get like this. So that little bit of lift as you sit on the edge of the blanket or the pillow, then you can lengthen through your spine, keep some curve in your low back. Okay, twist and into a hip opener from here. And so step your right foot across, and so that your foot's just outside of your knee. Let's say this is stage one, right? Your bottom leg is straight. That's a great place to be. You can stay there. If it feels like you have a little more range of motion in your hips, then tuck your left foot back. Sometimes we try it, it might not work, right? Come back to leg straight. The point is just getting started along the way. Take your right hand behind you. Inhale, sweep your left arm up. And then exhale, twist, wrap your arm around your knee. And hug your knee in. Sit down, really anchor into your sitting bones. From there, sit up tall, stretch up through the top of your head. And then with your breath, so we're not forcing the twist, think lengthen on your inhale. Draw your shoulder back, your ribs back on your exhale to twist. So you're moving from the breath more so than trying to force into the twist. And each breath, maybe just a little more. And sometimes a little is like a millimeter. And as we focus on that flexibility and the stretch, come back again, notice where that stopping point is. Honor that. Know that just by coming to that edge, right, we're retraining the muscles of our body, the tissues of our body. We develop a great awareness for listening, what our body needs, what it doesn't. And come back to center, inhale. Okay, big hip opener, so some options. Stack your right knee on top of your left. You might laugh a little and say, I don't do that. So you can come back to this option like we had for the twist with the bottom leg straight.
and the right knee working towards on top. That might mean it's a little more out here. Find the shape that works for you. Again, where's there stretch but no pain? The body's working, but you're not straining. Okay, and there's a fine balance between the two some days. Lengthen up through your spine. Okay, you might stay right here. Like, this is plenty of stretch in my hips. Or walk your hands forward a little bit. Right? That might be here. For some of us have a little bit more range of motion, that might be further forward. Some of you guys might have your foot tucked back. Just remember to keep your foot flexed and press through the outer edges of your feet. So there's the support for the stretch. Take a couple breaths there. Full, steady breaths. Again, remember to use your breath as a guide to the amount of sensation. If it becomes difficult to breathe or your breath becomes really fast, back out a little. Find the edge where there's enough breath. You can find that stability and engagement of your muscles, and it feels like you're getting some stretch. And see if you can get all three of those so the body feels supported. Walk your hands back up. Unwind your legs. Might feel good to shake them out a little bit in between. And then switch sides and step your left foot across. Option 1, keep your legs straight. Option 2, bend your foot back. Right, well, bend your knee, take your foot back. Take your left hand behind you. Anchor down through your sitting bones. Reach up through your right arm. Take a big breath in. And then exhale, twist. Wrap your arm around your leg. Hug your leg in. Just like we did on that first side. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, twist. And so it just moves in with breath. Lengthen, twist. And it might not be a huge amount of movement on each one. Like, I feel like it's shifting a couple millimeters until we get to that stopping point that's like, that's it. Especially in twists where the belly gets compressed, can you still find that expansion and contraction with your belly so the breath is full? Come back to center, and then same, start to work your left knee across. Maybe with both, maybe bring the other leg out straight. Flex your feet, press down through the pinky edge, right? And so if both feet are back, both feet flexed, press. Just keep that strength and engagement and support. Hands by your side, lengthen up through your spine. Stay here. Right, good hip opening just here. Or walk forward. Right, maybe here. Again, where's that stopping point for you? Check in with breath, with sensation. And sometimes we think of yoga as it's just these big crazy poses like foot behind the head and all about the flexibility. And while there's some great aspects of that, for sure, especially we really need to maintain mobility. But I think it's equally as important that we keep the strength and the stability around that. And that it doesn't just become about a huge amount of mobility in our joints, that things become too loose. And walk yourself back up. Okay, one more here. Take the soles of your feet together, knees out wide in butterfly. And so for some of us, we get into this pose and the knees are way up here, right? Just range of motion of the hips. This is a really nice variation to tuck the blocks underneath there. Or if you have two throw pillows, you can slide one underneath each thigh. If your knees come down a little bit wider, maybe ditch those. And then press the soles of your feet together. Take your hands to your ankles, lift up through your chest. Okay, so for especially those so the knees are up higher than the hips, I think it's really nice to stay right here, right? Just allow for that opening of the hips. If your knees are down a little bit more, then you can take that forward fold and start to walk in. Right? Often, if we're trying to come forward when the knees are high, it puts a lot of pressure on the front of the hip joint, which ends up being, I think, a little bit counterproductive. And so press especially here through the pinky edges of your feet. That might help to engage the outer seam of your leg. Lengthen out through your spine as you root your sitting bones back. Walk forward again to wherever that place of resistance is for you. Sometimes it's like your head's all the way down to the mat. Sometimes we are way up here, and that is great. Where's that balance, that intersection between the strength and the stability and the flexibility? And so that we develop them from either sides and meet in the middle. Walk yourself back up. Use your hands to help your knees together, and then come all the way down onto your back. Hug your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a little squeeze. It might feel good to take a little rock side to side. Massage out your low back. And then hug your forehead up to your knees. Take a big curl in. And with your exhale, let it go. Stretch yourself out into Shavasana, final resting pose. And take your feet out wide enough that your legs can relax. Your arms can come along your sides, or hands to your belly if that feels more soothing. Allow your eyes to close. Bring your awareness back to your breath if that went away. And see if with each exhale, you can just let your body settle in a little heavier. You might feel with one breath that your shoulders drop back a little more, or that your hips settle in. Allow yourself to release all the effort, all the doing, and just enjoy these last few moments of rest here, where your body really integrates the practice. You start to build that muscle memory for when we come back to the mat. And rest there. I'll bring you out when it's time. Take some deeper breaths again. And with your next inhale, take a full stretch. Reach your arms up overhead, lengthen out through your legs. And then keep your arms up, draw your knees in towards your chest. Roll to your right side. Use your hands, press all the way back up to sitting. Bring your hands together at your heart. And then bow in, head to heart. And to finding that intersection, that balance between the strength and the length, the flexibility. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste.